I'm Chef Miss Lovell, and today we're going to be talking about main idea. So, whenever you're thinking about main idea, you can think of a pizza. So, I'm going to go pop this in the oven and we'll get started. Okay guys, whenever we're thinking about main idea, like I said, we need to be thinking about a pizza. So in my anchor chart, you can see I have a pizza right here. Whenever you're looking for the main idea in a story or a paragraph, you need to be thinking about a pizza. Whenever you look at a pizza, there's lots of different toppings on it, but we don't refer to the pizza as the toppings. So, for example, the overall main idea is pizza. Now, there are juicy details, like there are juicy toppings on a pizza like pepperonis, peppers, mushrooms, etc. You can find so much good information through these toppings or through these details. These toppings add to our story, but that's only what they do. They only add to it. It's not the main idea. So, all of these toppings on my pizza, those are just details of the pizza. So we have pepperonis, peppers, and mushrooms. They add to the pizza, but overall we know that this is a pizza. So that's what you need to think about whenever you're reading anything. Now, you might be asking yourself, how do I find the main idea? There's 4 things that you can look for that can help you figure out what the main idea of your story is. The first one is you can look at the title or the headings. Usually the title will give you a clue of what that paragraph or story is about. So, whenever you read the title, it might help you figure out what the main idea is. Next, you can look at the illustrations or pictures. The illustrations in a story add to the text, and they give us more insight about what our story is about. The next thing you need to look for is words used more than once in the story. If certain words are repeated throughout the paragraph or throughout a story, they must be important. They add to the main idea. Lastly, you need to reread the first and last sentence. In some situations, the first and last sentence give you the main idea. So, whenever you read a story, look back at the first and last sentence because it might give you clues on what the main idea is. All right, guys, now that we've learned more about main idea and how those juicy key details adds to our story, but is not the main focus, let's read some different paragraphs and see if we can figure out the main idea of each paragraph. Now, right here I have my main idea choice boards. You can do this in Google Slides, and it's so fun and so easy. Now, because it's over the computer, I'm just going to randomly pick which story we should do first. So we have the option between smartphones, mother alligators, exercising, sleeping bats, gravity, and baby kangaroos. I think the first one I want to do is sleeping bats because I love learning about bats. Okay. So our first story is titled, Where Do Bats Sleep? Bats are known for flying around at night and sleeping during the day. You may have seen pictures of bats sleeping upside down in caves. Bats have other daytime resting places too. They sleep in trees, in old buildings, and even under bridges. More than 1 million bats sleep under one bridge in Austin, Texas. This colony or group contains about as many bats as there are people in the city. Okay, guys, after reading this paragraph, some words that are popping out to me that were repeated a lot were not only bats, but bats sleeping. So it talks about different places where they sleep in this paragraph. It talks about them sleeping in caves, trees, buildings, under bridges, okay? So overall, my main idea, I had to think about it has to focus on not only bats, but bats sleeping in lots of different places. So now that I have this in my mind, let's read the multiple choice questions and figure out what is our correct answer. So the question is, what is the main idea of the paragraph? Is it A, millions of bats sleep under a bridge in Austin, Texas? It does mention that in the story, but is this whole paragraph about the bats that sleep under that bridge in Texas? No, it's not. So I know that A is not our answer because that's not what the story is mostly about. Let's move on to B. Bats can sleep in many different places during the day. This could be our answer because I knew that I had to talk about bats and them sleeping in different places, and it mentions that in answer B. And it doesn't point out specific things that were mentioned in the story, which would be more of like a detail. So we're going to keep B. We know that A is not the answer. Let's move on to C. C, bats like to sleep in trees. So this does talk about bats and sleeping, but it only says that bats sleep in trees. So that's just a detail. That's not the main idea. So I know that A and C are not my answer. Let's read our last choice before we make a final decision. D, all bats sleep upside down and hang from their feet. So this is very true, but it's more about where the bats sleep. The title of our story is even Where Do Bats Sleep? So it's not how do bats sleep. We need to find a location. So D is not our answer. With that being said, I know now that B, bats can sleep in many different places during the day, is the main idea of this paragraph. Good job, guys. Let's go back to our choice board and see if we can figure out any of the other paragraph's main ideas. Okay, so we've already done sleeping bats, so we've got 1 out of 6. I think the next one I want to do is exercising. Okay, so we're faced with a new paragraph titled The Power of Exercise. Why should you exercise? When you exercise, you lower your chances of getting sick. For example, exercise makes your heart healthier and your body stronger. It improves your mood and can make you feel calm. Regular exercise helps you think more clearly so you can get more done during the day. Exercise can help you sleep better at night. Regular exercise can make you feel better in so many ways. Okay, so after reading that paragraph, I know that we're talking about exercising, but we're also talking about so many benefits to regularly exercising. So we need to be thinking about that whenever we're picking the main idea. So let's look at our answer choices because we're trying to figure out the main idea of this paragraph. Is it A, exercising helps you not get sick? That was mentioned in the story, but I think that's more of a key detail rather than the main idea. The whole main idea is not about how exercising prevents you from getting sick. That's just one thing that it mentions about how beneficial exercising is. So I don't think it's A. What about B? You sleep better at night if you exercise regularly. I think it's the same thing with A. Those are great benefits to exercising, but it's not the main idea about how exercising helps you sleep at night. Let's move on to C. Your body gets stronger when you exercise. Once again, I think that this is another key detail that our story does mention, but it's not the overall message that the paragraph is trying to get the reader to understand. Last but not least, D. Exercising makes your life better in so many ways. I think this would be a great answer for the main idea of this paragraph because even if you look at the last sentence of our story, it says regular exercise can make your life better in so many ways. That was one thing that we needed to look for, was not only the first sentence of our paragraph, but also the last sentence of our paragraph, because it can help you figure out what the main idea is. So I think D, exercising makes your life better in so many ways, is our correct answer. Great job, guys. Let's move on to our other stories. Okay, so we've done sleeping bats and exercising, so we have 4 more to go. I'm really interested to see what this smartphone passage is about. Okay. Smartphones are phones that are used for more than making calls and sending messages. People count on them for getting directions and finding information on the internet. People also have fun listening to music, taking pictures, and playing games on their phones. On the other hand, smartphones have some downsides. They can make it hard to keep your mind on important things like studying. Some people even text during meals or when spending time with their family. Driving while using a phone puts people in danger. Smartphones are useful, but they can cause problems if not used safely and politely. Okay, guys, so this paragraph had lots of information about smartphones. It talks about good things that smartphones can do, like, giving you directions, you can play games, you can listen to music, you can do all of those good stuff. But it also mentions the downsides to smartphones. Like, you might be playing on your phone while you're eating dinner with your family, and that's taking away time from them. Also, it points out that, using your smartphone while driving is very dangerous and harmful. So, whenever we're looking for the main idea of this paragraph, I know that we are talking about smartphones, but we're talking about how smartphones are good for us as well as how smartphones are bad for us. So now that we've talked about this, let's move on to our questions. What is the main idea of the paragraph? Is it A, people can have fun doing different tasks on their phone? That is mentioned in the beginning of our story, but it's not mentioned throughout our story. So I know that that's going to be a key detail. Let's move on to B. There are lots of downsides to smartphones. Same thing. Whenever they mention the downsides of smartphones, it was at the end of the paragraph. So it wasn't mentioned throughout the paragraph. So I don't think that that's our main idea of the whole paragraph. So let's move on to C. Smartphones have both their ups and downs. I think that this is a really well-rounded answer for the main idea of this paragraph, mainly because it's saying that smartphones are beneficial, but they're also harmful. So I'm going to keep C in mind, and I'm going to move on to D. D, everyone needs to have a smartphone. Now, D is a silly, nonsense answer because that's someone's opinion. That wasn't mentioned in the story. So C, smartphones have both their ups and downs, is the main idea of this story. Well done, guys. Let's go back to our choice board and see what other options we have left. Okay, so now we're looking at either mother alligators, gravity, or baby kangaroos. I think we should go ahead and do mother alligators. Okay. Alligators are surprisingly helpful mothers. A female alligator builds a nest for her eggs on shore. After she lays her eggs, she covers the nest to keep it warm. Unlike many other reptiles that leave their eggs, the alligator stays to keep them safe. When the babies start making noise, the mother knows they're ready to hatch. She may help by putting the eggs in her mouth and gently breaking the shells apart. Once the babies hatch, their mother gathers them up and puts them in the water. She stays with and protects her young for as long as 2 years. Wow, I did not know this about mother alligators, did you? So from reading this paragraph, we can tell that mother alligators are incredible creatures. They are very helpful and they take care of their young. So, whenever I'm picking out the main idea of my paragraph, I need to keep that in mind. It gives me lots of examples of how they are helpful, but we need to make sure that we're not picking a key detail or an example mentioned in the story as the main idea. So, let's read our answer choices. Is the main idea of the paragraph A, alligators are helpful and caring mothers? I think that this is a really well-rounded answer, but I want to keep going on to make sure that I'm making the correct choice. So let's look at B. B, mother alligators lay on their eggs to keep them warm. I think that B is a great example of how mother alligators are helpful and caring, but it's just a key detail. The whole story is not about how they lay on their eggs. So I don't think B is our answer. Let's move on to C. C, mother alligators stay with their babies for up to 2 years. Once again, this is a great example of how the mother alligators take care of their kids, but it's just a key detail that's mentioned in our story. Let's move on to D. Mother alligators tend to their babies when they make noises. Okay, so we all know by this point, this is yet another example of how mother alligators are helpful and caring to their babies. So the best option for the main idea of this paragraph would be A, that alligators are helpful and caring mothers. Woohoo! We are almost done. We have 2 more stories to go. So let's go back to our choice board. Okay, so we've done smartphones, mother alligators, exercising, and sleeping bats. So now we have left is gravity and baby kangaroos. I don't know about you, but after hearing about mother alligators, I kind of want to talk about more baby stuff. So I'm going to click on baby kangaroos. Okay, our passage is titled Baby Kangaroos. Let's get started. A female kangaroo has a special fold of skin that forms a pouch. The pouch is like a large pocket on its stomach. When a baby kangaroo, or joey, is born, it climbs into its mother's pouch. At birth, a joey is only about 1 inch long. It needs to stay in the pouch so it can grow more. After several months, the joey has grown enough to leave the pouch for short periods of time. By the time the joey is 10 months old, it is ready to leave the pouch for good. Okay, so from reading this paragraph, I can tell that this is kind of the series of events or sequence of a joey's life. So let's read the choices and see which one would be the best option for the main idea of the paragraph. Is it A, a baby kangaroo stays in its mother's pouch until it's strong enough to live on its own? That's a pretty good, well-rounded answer. You know, it talks about living in the mother's pouch, and then it talks about it leaving, which is what the story is about. So that is a good choice, but I always read my other options before I make a final decision. Let's read B. B, female kangaroos have a special fold that forms a pouch. Now, that was mentioned in the beginning of the paragraph, but the whole story is not about this pouch. So I know that B is not my answer. Let's move on to C. At birth, a joey is only about 1 inch long. See, that's a key detail. It's telling us about, the size of a baby joey, but it's not about the whole life of a joey in its mother's pouch. So I know that C is not my answer. D. At 10 months old, the joey leaves the pouch for good. Now, this is mentioned at the very end of the paragraph, but It has nothing to do with all the events that happen in a joey's life cycle in the mother's pouch. So D is not our answer. So with that being said, A baby kangaroo stays in its mother pouch until it's strong enough to live on its own, is the best option for the main idea of this paragraph. Way to go, guys. We have one more story left, so let's go back to our choice board. Okay, so now all we have left to do is pick gravity. The title of our paragraph is, What Would Life Be Like Without Gravity? Ooh, so before I even read this, I already know that we're going to be talking about how our lives would be different without gravity. Okay. Gravity is the force that makes things fall to the earth. You can't see or touch it, but without gravity, life on earth would be quite different. Everything would simply float away. If you jumped up, you would fly off into space. If you threw a baseball, it would never come down. Gravity is also the force that keeps the earth orbiting around the sun. So without gravity, the earth might float away too. Wow, that is crazy. So from this paragraph, I've learned that gravity is super important on our earth. So it's talking about all the different ways that our lives would be different without gravity. So I need to keep that in mind whenever I'm looking at my answer choices. So let's figure out what's the main idea of this paragraph. Is it A, you can't see or touch gravity? Now, it does mention this in the story, but the whole story isn't about how you can't touch or see gravity. So I don't think A is the best main idea of this paragraph. B, if you threw a baseball, it would never come down without gravity. So this is an example that they mentioned in the story to, show us what our lives would be like without gravity. But this was merely a key detail in the paragraph. So it can't be the main idea. What about C? Without gravity, life on Earth would be very different. Wow, this one kind of sums up the whole paragraph because throughout the whole paragraph, we're mentioning different examples of what our lives would look like without gravity. It even says it in the story that life on Earth would be quite different without gravity. So that could be the main idea of the paragraph, but I want to read option D first to make sure. D, gravity is the force that keeps the Earth orbiting around the sun. So D was mentioned in the story, but it's mainly pointing out how important gravity is to Earth orbiting around the sun. So that's also not our answer. So with that being said, C, without gravity, life on Earth would be very different is the main idea of the paragraph. Y'all did so good with this activity. I hope y'all liked my choice board. You can find the main idea in so many different stories if you put your mind to it. Oh, magnifique. Y'all did so good today with main idea. I hope y'all enjoyed this lesson. I'll see you next time.